Welcome to the Talk to Me podcast with your favorite host, Dumela Marule, where we talk about everything life, relationships, mental health, and business. We'll be talking to many experts in the field, sharing my own experiences, and providing you with actionable tools that you can use in your life. I'm here to help you navigate the ups and downs of young adulthood and provide you with the tools and resources to help you succeed. So whether you're feeling lost, confused, or just need a friend to talk to, I'm here for that. Listen to our podcast on Apple Play, Google Play, and Spotify, and don't forget to hit subscribe, rate our podcast, and review it. I'm here to help you make the best of your young adult years, so let's get started. Welcome back to this episode of the Talk to Me podcast. It's been, I would say, a minute, but really hasn't. A couple of things have been happening in my personal life. You know, having to juggle a 9 to 5, and then you also have to take into consideration that you have your businesses, then you've got like your own personal life that you have to take into consideration. So it's just a lot of things, you know. And running all of that concurrently, and having come from a big international trip, finances have been financing, my friends. Oh, the reality of getting your ducks back in a row, making sure the debit order do not bounce. It's been hectic. It definitely has been hectic. But I come back with a brand new topic of discussion for us today. Something that I think has affected me and still is. And I guess also considering everyone else, you know, people around me, people I know, acquaintances. This is the same thing that has kind of affected everyone. And that's the idea of there comes a point in our lives where we do ourselves a disservice of not believing in ourselves, not being our number one cheerleader, not, thinking that we are the best that we could be. We are the number one in our own race in life. And, doing that injustice or disservice of never believing in yourself. And it's the most saddest thing to ever do, because it's the biggest disappointment you could give to you, right? The biggest regret of life that you could give to you more than anything. And I thought about this on a random day, when I launched, finally I can say, when I launched my YouTube channel. So I can literally start using the infamous terms. Please go like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. So all of our podcasts will be posted directly on our YouTube channel, and we will be doing a visual podcast in a couple of months to come. So you guys will get to see the beautiful face behind the voice, and I am super excited about that, because that will give us an opportunity to bring in new talent, new faces, allow us to get closer to brand deals and brand collaborations, because that's what we do. Running this business opens up avenues for us to allow us to, tap into those avenues. So I can't wait to go through that process with you guys. So it's going to be quite exciting, and I can't wait. So run it back to our topic of discussion in terms of why we don't really believe in ourselves. I think it took me a while to realize that I do not need people's claps. I do not need a standing ovation. I do not need you saluting me, sending me DMs to tell me that I did it. I don't need that. I don't need that validation from anyone to know that I am number one in my world, in my life, in my marathon, in my journey. I am that girl. I am the it girl in my mind. And until I had to believe that, never worked. Like, I guess it took me a really long time to come to terms with the fact that validation is, yes, important to a certain extent. I don't think saying that you don't need some things to be validated by some people. I genuinely do think you do. It just depends on what and in what areas of your life. You know what I mean? Like, to what degree does an opinion matter, and who is giving that opinion, and is it an unsolicited opinion of its own? So all of that comes to us being able to talk about different ways, or rather the 5 ways that I've come up with in terms of how to rewire your brain so that you get to the point where you believe in yourself and you are your number one fan and achiever and cheerleader and all of these beautiful things that you see in you, right? The potential that everyone else sees, but you don't. How do you get yourself to see that? So the reason why I say rewire your brain is from a neuroscience and a science point of view. The brain is something so phenomenal. The number of thoughts we have just in a day, if you had to write that down in a piece of paper, you probably wouldn't finish them all, because they are just going and going and going. And as a person, you then start to realize that you are sitting with this floating body of work in your head, protected by your skull, to give you life. And this is the very thing that tells you whether you're feeling cold, whether it's hot, whether you're burning, anything of that. So it ignites your feelings because it starts in the brain itself. So it's been important to then think about the brain also channels our thoughts. The brain also allows us to think of things in different avenues. And with that being said, it then reminds me of the fact that it's our thoughts, it's our mind, it's all of those things that ignite us, our subconscious thoughts, our conscious thoughts, our intrinsic thoughts, all of these deep thoughts that come in and out are some of the things that are important, because whatever you think will become the reality. Like, I didn't understand that until I started venturing into business, until I started picking out or visioning the type of life I want, and then seeing it come to fruition. So if we get started on the first way to rewire your brain, is that mindset shift. Mindset shift is the most important aspect, because what you think of is what becometh, right? What you thinketh is what becometh. So you are your only enemy. From a physical realm point of view and a spiritual realm, you have multiple enemies, but there's this one that has control. All of these other ones, you can't really control them, but there's just this one in particular that you can control. And that's the mind. So that mindset shift is important. What you used to think of yourself should not be what you think of yourself now. Yes, you've failed dismally, whether you failed to reach targets in work, whether you failed to ensure that you as a particular person can be able to graduate on time. All of those are failures in terms of the standard that the world's put, right? Or like every single thing, if you look at it from a point of view, it's written failed or pass, fail or pass, because there was a standard that was set. So from a world's perspective, you haven't met the bar, or maybe you are on the bar. But what do you tell yourself, right? So that you can get up and do it again and come out on top. So mindset shift is important, because whatever you think of yourself, whether you think of yourself in the best of light or not, will really be shown. So you need to start rewiring yourself to more optimistic mindsets, more positive mindsets, because that attracts something in the spiritual world that is called energy. Now, with energy, I'm not a person that fully believes in the idea of just trusting in that, because I always say everything goes back to the creator. You have to always take things back to the creator. So things like vibrations, manifestation, all of those things are created by someone, you know. So I definitely do believe that there is something called energy. If you've done physics, if you've done science, you will understand that matter is energy. Every single thing in the world, a neuron, an atom, everything it's energy. And you also transmit it in your brain through vibrations, wavelength, frequency, back to science. So if you start understanding that you exude energy. They always say when a butterfly lands on you, it means something. When a child comes to you, a stranger comes to say something, or a child comes to you without knowing you, like you are the keeper. It's because of that energy. And you won't just get it. It's based off of your mind. And a mindset shift builds a personality. Someone's just angry. No, they're not just angry. What's filled in their brain is negativity. They see the world as dull. Everything is never their fault. Victim mentality. All of those things are just, a big plastic bag of trash that is consumed inside of you, and you are choosing not to let go. All of negative traits, the thought of that heavy burden of not forgiving, that heavy burden of pride, ego, the heavy burden of not accepting that you're wrong, not letting it go, not letting the past go in terms of some of the things you've done that you are responsible for. The negative energy of not being accountable to the fact that it was your fault and not anyone else's, and that you had a part to play. All of those things, like when you start shifting into the positive energy, that's where you get things like acceptance start kicking in. So a mindset shift is important. I say once you start on the mindset shift, moving from the negative dull mentality to a beautiful sunlight, sunflower mentality, that's when you start growing. And because of your mindset shift, you start developing habits. Habits are important because scientifically, and it's been proven, and a lot of people have written books about this. You have the 5 a.m. club. There's this other book about habitual rituals. And you have just all of these books talking about habits, and that it takes 90 consecutive days for something to actually be a habit for you. I think it's 90 if I'm not mistaken, for you to actually take up this thing. It could be 21 if I just need to do my due diligence and double check it for you guys. Yes, it definitely says that there is the 21-day myth, where it could take you 21 days to actually form a habit. But 21 days is less than a month. But to actually see it in fruition, it takes you about roughly between 60 to 90 days to actually start making that thing like a habit and doing it on a consistent basis. So your habits are the very thing that determine the rewiring of your brain, whether you're waking up early or not, whether you're drinking enough water, your intake of water, what type of diet you are having. And when I say diet, I'm not necessarily meaning don't eat this or that, but more so of portion sizing, right? That's my firm belief. I don't think you should not eat this or that. You should portion size. Even with fatty and sugary substances, you should definitely portion size accordingly. So your habits are important. So if you think about it, 90 days maximum is about 3 months. So if you keep consistently doing this thing, like making up your bed in the morning, if it takes you 90 days to do this, you've tapped into step 3, routine. Because vice versa, for something to be a habit, it's a routine. For something to be a routine, it's a habit. That's how I think about it. One would say the other comes first than the other, but I think they kind of work together. So even if you could be doing something for 3 days, it's a short-term routine, So I think trying to incorporate both your step 2 and step 3 in terms of habits and routines are important, because yes, today you might make your bed up, but tomorrow you don't. But if we had to calculate over 90 days, how often have you done it? It has now become a habit for you. And if you've done it consistently, it's then obviously now part of your routine process. So a couple of all of these things that make up a good routine in terms of how often do you sleep, how many hours do you sleep, and what time do you actually wake up, what do you do in terms of your 1 hour mental and social brain dumping and brain locking. So all of these things are important, because whatever you consume and whatever you're doing, if you've created bad habits, you've created a bad routine for yourself. Now, breaking those are extremely hard. You have to wring your teeth to kind of get yourself to a clean slate and start all over, with adopting new habits so you could create a new routine for yourself. So I think if you start looking at what are my daily habits, like what are the things that I do, like without thinking. And that's how habits work. It's a habit because you almost do it without thinking. It's like someone learning, or like myself, learning how to swim at a very young age, going a full year without getting in a pool, throw me in some water, and it's almost like I was born to swim, So those things are important because they become so embedded in you, and trying to drill them out it's definitely hard. It's not the most easiest thing to do. So always think about that your habits and routine are important. Then comes to step 4 of rewiring your brain: self-talk and perspective. In a nutshell, it's basically how do you see yourself and how do you speak to yourself? When you look at yourself in the mirror every day, what do you say? And trust and believe in me, it's not the ones that you say out loud, it's the ones that you say deep inside of you. How often do you call yourself stupid? How often do you call yourself a failure? How often do you choose not to love? How often do you sit and feel sad or angry? How often do you allow yourself to laugh randomly? So all of these things of how do you see yourself, even from a physical perspective. You look at yourself, you're like, I may not be perfect, but I actually like myself. Do you know how hard it is for people to say they like themselves? They can actually sit in a room, like right now, I'm sitting in the dark, everyone in the house is asleep, and it's about 9 o'clock, and it's just complete silence. The only thing you could hear are birds chirping or the chickens in their nest, all of these things, and you just then realize like, whoa, I love silence. I love the sound of my voice. I love hearing it. I love it echoing back to me. I love being in my space. And it's like, to you, I ask, do you like yourself? Do you love yourself? Are you happy with you? More than anything else, are you happy with yourself? So that self-talk and perspective is important, because there are days where you do not feel your best. You do not look your best. And you know it, and so does everyone else. And having to pump yourself up to just ensure that you are your number one supporter, it's not going to be easy. But you only know it if you, 1, have done a mindset shift, 2, have created a habit of talking to yourself positively, and it has become your routine. So once you start getting into that process, even in your worst days, it's very hard for you to say something cruel to yourself, because you're not used to doing that. You are used to giving yourself grace and mercy and sprinkling all of these things. And I mean, God is the one person that does not speak ill of you. The one who created you does not speak ill of you. Who are you to speak ill of yourself? If you sit there and you think about it, who are you to speak ill of yourself? You do not have the right. Absolutely, you do not have the right to tell yourself harsh words as if you are emotionally abusing yourself. It is not okay. And at times you may need to take even professional help, because all of these things could be trigger bound based on the environment and all of these things and what had happened to you. But I still say your brain is the one thing you have control over. Even if you could be in a cyclone of some sort, you have that capacity, but you have to do the step process. If you're not going to do the step process, you are going to then lose yourself, and trying to regain and come back and center is so hard. It really is so hard. So I would definitely say take time to analyze, how do you self-talk? How do you introspect? So it's just important. It's just as important as the other steps. And the last one, which is my favorite, because this one sums everything up. To rewire your brain, you need to learn self-development, aka challenging yourself. You cannot stay stagnant. Your brain loses, your entire body loses cells, regains cells. There's so many things that you lose from your body that are regained and growing, and even just you. So how can you expect, your brain even matures in terms of EQ level. So how do you expect to stay in the same place? So learn to challenge yourself. I'm pleading and asking you to learn to challenge yourself in all of the smallest aspects. So if we go back to step 2 and 3 about habits and rituals, learn to challenge yourself to wake up early. Learn to challenge yourself to increase your water intake. And it's up to you to decide what it means to increase it. I know from a scientist point of view, in terms of nutrition and whatever anyone says, it's like this is the good amount of water for a person to drink. I don't believe in the idea of, if you're going to change, you must jump from A to Z. Gradual change makes such a big thing. And if you change one day, and change one day for a week, one day for a month, one day for a year, you'd be surprised at what change you have reached when you start looking back. So learn to challenge yourself so you can develop you. Learn to read interesting books. I have a lot of friends that love fiction books. I have a love-hate relationship with them, depending on how they're written. I dislike living in a fantasy world because I've done that and it has never worked to my advantage. And maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. But that's also another thing I clearly need to do in terms of rewiring, is going back to saying, if I've disliked this one particular thing, can I go back and learn to read fiction books, but ones that maybe I may like? So it's the same thing to you too. It's like you can then go and read non-fiction, which those I love, because that's where self-development is. Whether it's biographies, it is self-help books, meditation guides, anything that you deem could be of benefit to you, even business books and personal financing, which is one of my biggest challenge that I need to do for 2024, is to get my finances in order, especially with everything running around in my life. It's just getting that aspect. Exercising. How often do you exercise? Exercising could be taking a 10-minute walk. It could be learning to stretch every single day. I refuse to be 90 and not know how to bend my back. So learn to exercise, learn to stretch the body, learn to be mobile. Mobility is something that's important, and flexibility. So learn all of these aspects. Challenge yourself to meditate. I know not a lot of people like it. They think of it as for monks. But I think meditation is dependent on how you see it. The idea of it's in two ways. It's either it's a clearing of thought or aligning of thought. So clearing of thought could be, if you are an overthinker, you use meditation as a way to center yourself so that you don't hear any voices that your subconscious voices that keep just spurring at you. Whereas lining your thoughts could be someone who you are very organized individual, but you feel like you decluttering. So lining your thoughts is bringing all of the necessary ones in line. So it could be a moment of listening to you. So it depends. I don't think there is one or the other. I use them and interchange them when necessary, depending on how I feel or what's happening around me at a point in time. So I encourage you to take 2024. And I keep saying take 2024 in every single episode as to all of the things that you need to do. But seriously, I think it's about time. I'm 27 now, and I'm trying to look at my 30s and say, can I enter them as a better person? Can I enter them as someone I like? Someone that I've thought, this is who I want to be in my 30s, right? As a 27-year-old. Whereas when I was 16 and in my teen years, I obviously looked at things from a materialistic point of view, like by 30, this is what. But now it's completely different, because I see that if everything in my corp, if everything in my head is okay, is mentally sane, is what I want it to be, then trust and believe me, I have the capacity to achieve those very goals I had when I was 16 or in my teens. So you've got this. Don't doubt yourself. You can lean on yourself. You can believe. Like, trust me, you can believe that you've got this. Like, don't even think about it any further. And go at it. I definitely believe you have it. I know God will give you the strength and the ability to carry yourself forward and move in the direction you want. So with that being said, from me to you, I hope you achieve every single thing that you've thought out from your mental capacity, and to bring it out in reality. And lots of love. Thank you for listening to the Talk to Me podcast. We hope that you find this episode quite helpful and you really enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me on my social media platforms. And don't forget that you can also leave a comment under the comment section below. Should you be listening to Apple, either on Google Play or Spotify, do not forget to hit that subscribe, rate our podcast, and review it. I really love to hear any of the suggestions that you guys may have for any of our future episodes. So I'm always looking for ways to improve our show and make it more relevant to my listeners. Thank you again for listening. Until then, see you soon.